The flashing lights of a police cruiser painted the luxury store's pristine windows in streaks of red and blue, casting an eerie glow over racks of designer handbags and the trembling hands of a woman standing in the center of it all. Her name was Alicia Carter, though no one in the room knew it yet. Not the stone-faced manager who'd called 911, nor the rookie officer gripping his cuffs too tight, convinced he'd just thwarted a theft. Alicia's voice stayed calm, steady, as she repeated the words, "I didn't steal anything." But the officer's jaw clenched, his eyes darting to the security footage playing silently on a manager's laptop. What he couldn't see, what none of them could see, was the text notification lighting up Alicia's phone in her confiscated purse. A single sentence. Press conference moved to 3 p.m. Confirm attendance 20 miles away in a crowded subway car rattling beneath the city. 17-year-old Jamal Thompson shifted his weight, backpack slung over one shoulder. His mom's voice played. In his head, always look for ways to help, as his gaze landed on a pregnant woman gripping a pole, her face pale under the flickering lights. Without thinking, he stood, nodding toward his seat. The woman's relief was instant, her smile warm. But Jamal didn't expect the way her eyes lingered on him, like she was memorizing his face. When the train screeched to her stop, she pressed a folded note into his palm, her voice barely audible over the rumble. "Read this when you get home." The paper felt heavy, dangerous, but Jamal's fingers closed around it anyway. Back in the boutique, Alicia's patience frayed as the officer recited her rights. She studied his badge, Officer D. Harper, and wondered how this would play out. Once they realized her other job title, her assistant would be panicking by now, scrambling to delay the mayor's team waiting at City Hall. But Alicia had spent years mastering the art of composure, even as Harper's radio crackled with a dispatcher's garbled update about a VIP incident downtown. His head tilted just slightly, as if connecting dots too vague to grasp. The subway doors hissed open at Jamal's stop, the note burning a hole in his pocket. He unfolded it in the dim stairwell, squinting at the elegant script. "You have a gift. Let me help you use it." Below it, a phone number and a name that made his breath catch. Victoria Caldwell, the billionaire philanthropist? His laugh came out shaky. A prank? A scam? But why him? He traced the numbers, heart pounding, as sirens wailed somewhere above ground. 2 miles north, Officer Harper's phone buzzed with an alert he'd never received in his 6 months on the force. A priority message from the police commissioner. His thumb hovered over the screen. Alicia watched him, her lips curling into a faint, unreadable smile. The clock on the boutique wall ticked louder now, each second slicing through the silence between Alicia and Officer Harper. Her phone buzzed again in her purse, a muffled, persistent sound. But Harper's attention was locked on his own device, the screen glowing with the commissioner's alert. His thumb twitched, torn between protocol and the gnawing sense that something about this arrest felt off. The manager had insisted the security footage showed her slipping a diamond bracelet into her coat, but Alicia's demeanor didn't match the panicked guilt he'd seen in other shoplifters. She stood tall, her dark eyes sharp behind her glasses, studying him like he was the one under scrutiny. "You're making a mistake," she said quietly, not for the first time. Harper's throat tightened. He'd heard those words before, from his older brother, years ago, cuffed on their front lawn after a noise complaint. Mistakes had a way of haunting his family. Across town, Jamal paced his tiny bedroom, the note from Victoria Caldwell clutched in his sweaty palm. His mom was at work, thank God. She'd have 1,000 questions about why he'd bolted straight to his room, ignoring her usual, "How was your day?" call from the kitchen. He'd Googled Victoria Caldwell the second he got home, and there she was, sleek silver hair, sharp suits, smiling beside senators and CEOs. Founder of Caldwell Futures, a nonprofit that funded scholarships for kids from BICE, underestimated communities, as her website put it. But why him? He wasn't valedictorian, didn't star in sports. Just a B student who fixed neighbors' bikes for spare cash, and volunteered at the rec center to make his mom proud. He flopped onto his bed, staring at the ceiling. The note's phone number felt like a live wire. What if this was his only shot? In the boutique, Harper finally opened the commissioner's message. His face paled. Urgent. All units report sightings of newly appointed police commissioner Alicia Carter. Last seen en route to City Hall. Description: black female, 5'8", burgundy blazer, gold. Harper's gaze snapped to Alicia's jacket, the exact shade of red wine, the City Hall press pass now peeking out from her inner pocket. His stomach dropped. The manager had called her suspicious for lingering too long by the jewelry, but Alicia, Commissioner Carter, had been waiting for her assistant, who'd texted about running late with her speech notes. The security footage looped again, and Harper finally saw it, the bracelet falling from a shelf into her open purse as she adjusted her scarf. No intent, no crime, just bad luck and worse timing. Jamal's finger hovered over his phone. Call the number. His thumb shook. What if it was a trick? Rich people didn't hand out lifelines on the subway. But then he remembered the woman's face. Not just grateful, but intense, like she'd been searching for him. He typed the number, held his breath, and pressed dial. 1 ring, 2. A crisp female voice answered. Jamal, I've been waiting. Back. At the store, Harper's radio exploded with static. All units, the dispatcher barked. Code 44 at City Hall. Press conference delayed. Commissioner Carter unreachable. Alicia arched an eyebrow. You going to tell them? She said, nodding at the radio. Or should I? Harper's mouth opened, but no sound came out. The boutique door flew open, and a breathless woman in a pencil skirt rushed in. Alicia's assistant waving a USB drive. The speech revisions, Commissioner. They've rescheduled for 3:15, but the mayor's livid... She froze, taking... In the cuffs dangling from Harper's belt. Oh my God, Jamal gripped his phone tighter. How do you know my name? Victoria's laugh was warm, disarming. I make it my business to know extraordinary people, Jamal. What you did today, that instinct to help, it's rare. I want to invest in it. He heard papers shuffling, a keyboard clicking. Meet me tomorrow. Let's talk about your future. She texted an address, a sleek downtown tower, and the call ended. Jamal sat in the dark, heart racing. Extraordinary. No one had ever called him that. Alicia's cufflinks glinted as she adjusted her sleeves, the manager stammering apologies. A misunderstanding, truly. But Alicia wasn't looking at him. She locked eyes with Harper, who stood rigid, shame flushing his neck. Officer, she said, softer now, you've got good instincts, but next time, listen to the doubt before the cuffs come out. She slid her card into his hand. Call me. We need more cops who care about getting it right. Harper stared at the card. Long after she'd left, sirens escorting her to City Hall. His partner clapped him on the back. Lucky break, rookie. She could have buried your career. But Harper didn't feel lucky. He felt sick. Alicia's words echoed as he drove past his brother's old neighborhood, the streets where mistakes turned into headlines. Jamal didn't sleep that night. At dawn, he stood outside Caldwell Tower, its glass walls reflecting the sunrise. The lobby buzzed with suits and security badges. A receptionist led him to a private elevator. Ms. Caldwell's expecting you. The doors closed, and Jamal's reflection stared back. Hoodie, sneakers, a note folded in his fist. When the elevator dinged, Victoria stood there, not in a power suit, but a soft sweater, holding 2 mugs of cocoa. Welcome, she said. Let's talk about the life you're meant to have. At City Hall, Alicia stepped up to the podium, cameras flashing. Today, she began, we address systemic failures in policing. Her voice faltered. In the crowd, a familiar face. Officer Harper, gripping her card, his uniform crisp, his expression unreadable. Their eyes met. The room held its breath. The press conference room buzzed with uneasy murmurs as Alicia's gaze lingered on Harper, his presence like a crack in the careful facade she'd built. She cleared her throat, forcing her voice steady. Systemic failures, she continued. Begin with assuming guilt instead of seeking truth. Harper's jaw tightened as cameras pivoted toward him, sensing a story. He slipped out of the room, her business card crumpling in his fist. Outside, he leaned against his patrol car, replaying his brother's arrest in his mind. The way his mother had screamed at the cops, the way his brother never looked at him the same after Harper joined the force. Now, here he was, the villain, in someone else's story. His phone buzzed, a text from his partner. "You okay, man?" Harper didn't reply. Across the city, Jamal sipped cocoa in Victoria's penthouse, the steam fogging his glasses. She'd shown him blueprints for a community center, scholarship forms, and a photo of a young black boy, her son, who died in a hit-and-run 5 years ago. "I help kids like him," she'd said, voice catching. "Kids like you." Jamal's chest ached. It all made sense now. Her subway chance meeting wasn't chance at all. She'd been tracking him for weeks, ever since his rec center supervisor praised his mentoring work. "Why not just ask to meet me?" he said, uneasy. Victoria's smile didn't reach her eyes. "People lie. Actions don't." She slid a contract across the table. Full-ride scholarship, paid internship. All he had to do was sign. Alicia's assistant, Mara, cornered her after the speech. "The mayor's office is leaking to the press," she whispered. "They're saying you staged that arrest to play the victim for reform clout." Alicia's laugh was bitter. Of course they were. The mayor had opposed her appointment from day one, calling her a political puppet. Now he was spinning her humiliation into a conspiracy. "Find out who's feeding them lies," Alicia said. But as Mara nodded, her phone pinged. An anonymous tip. "Check Harper's record. Not as clean as you think." Harper drove past the Caldwell Tower that night. No idea why. Maybe he wanted to see where the city's power brokers hid. Instead, he saw Jamal exiting the building, shoulders hunched against the wind, clutching a folder. Harper slowed his car, rolling down the window. "Need a ride?" Jamal froze, eyeing the cruiser. "I'm good." Harper recognized the fear, the same look his brother used to give him. "I'm off duty," he said, softer. "Just be careful, kid. Rich people don't give nothing for free." Jamal's frown deepened, but he nodded, hurrying toward So. The subway. Harper watched him go, wondering if he'd ever looked that small. Jamal didn't tell his mom about the contract. She'd asked too many questions, and how could he explain Victoria's obsession with redeeming potential? Instead, he lay awake, tracing the embossed Caldwell Futures logo on the paperwork. The next morning, he arrived at the address Victoria had given him, a boarded-up church in a neighborhood the news called high risk. A construction crew buzzed around it, and Victoria waved him over. "Your new project," she said. "We're turning this into a youth hub. You'll help lead it." Jamal's heart swelled. This was what he'd wanted, to give back, to matter. But as he toured the site, a worker pulled him aside. "You seen the inspection reports?" he muttered. "Foundations crumbling, Caldwell's cutting corners." He pressed a crumpled paper into Jamal's hand. "Ask her about the real budget." Alicia sat in her office staring at Harper's file, a dozen commendations, and one sealed incident from his academy days. She'd need a judge to unseal it. But the anonymous tipster had sent another message. Ask him about his brother. Her fingers hovered over her phone. She needed allies, not enemies. But the mayor's smear campaign was gaining traction, and Harper's face on the news had become a meme. Hero cop humiliates commissioner. She dialed the number on the card she'd given him. It rang once before he picked up, breathless. "Harper," he said like he'd been waiting. "Meet me, now." Victoria's driver dropped Jamal home that evening, his head spinning with floor plans and donor lists. But as he stepped out, a man in a hoodie blocked his path. "She's using you," he hissed. Jamal recognized him, the subway panhandler he'd given his lunch to last week. "Caldwell's no saint. Ask her about the West Side tenants." The man vanished before Jamal could respond. Inside, Jamal Googled Caldwell Futures plus West Side. The screen filled with headlines. Affordable housing project stalled. Residents evicted. City contracts awarded to Caldwell-backed firms. His stomach turned. That night he texted Victoria, "We need to talk." Her reply was instant. "Tomorrow." My office. 9 a.m. Alicia met Harper at a dim diner, its neon sign flickering. He slid into the booth, avoiding her eyes. "You looked me up," he said. No greeting, just anger. "I know about your brother," she said gently. Harper's coffee cup rattled as he set it down. "That's none of your—" "It is," she interrupted. "When someone's trying to use him to destroy us both." She pushed a photo across the table. Harper's brother, standing outside Caldwell Tower, shaking hands with a man in a suit. Victoria Caldwell's head of security. Harper's blood ran cold. "What is this?" Alicia leaned forward. "Your brother works for Caldwell's private security team, and last month he arrested a protester who accused her of embezzlement." Jamal stood outside Victoria's office at 8:58 a.m., the contract heavy in his bag. The elevator dinged behind him. It was Harper's brother, Marcus, his security badge glinting. "She's not here," Marcus said, gruff. "Emergency meeting." He eyed Jamal. "You the new pet project?" Jamal stiffened. "What's that supposed to mean?" Marcus chuckled. "You'll figure it out. We all do." He walked away, leaving Jamal staring at Victoria's empty desk. On it, a file folder lay open. A photo of Alicia Carter paper-clipped to a news headline. "Commissioner's reforms threaten Caldwell's city contracts." Alicia's phone rang as Harper stared at the photo, his brother's face a stranger's. It was Mara. "The mayor just announced an investigation into your conduct," she said. "They're subpoenaing store security footage." Alicia closed her eyes. The footage showed her innocence, but it also showed Harper's incompetence. If she released it, she'd save herself but end his career. If she didn't, the mayor would bury her. Harper looked up, voice raw. "What are you gonna do?" In the Caldwell Tower lobby, Jamal pressed send on a text to Alicia's office. A tip about the construction violations, the evictions, all of it. His finger trembled. Victoria's voice echoed behind him. "Jamal, we need to talk." He turned, and the look on her face wasn't kindness anymore. It was a warning. The elevator doors slid shut behind Jamal, sealing him in the sterile silence of Caldwell Tower's private lobby. Victoria's heels clicked against the marble floor, sharp and deliberate, as she stepped closer. "You've been busy," she said, her voice smooth but edged with frost. Jamal's phone still glowed in his hand, the unsent text to Alicia's office hovering over a photo of the church's cracked foundation. Victoria's gaze flicked to it. "You think sending that will help?" She laughed, soft and humorless. "Alicia Carter can't save you. She can't even save herself." Across town, Alicia's fingers hovered over the keyboard in her dimly lit office. The security footage from the boutique was one click away from being released to the public, proof of her innocence and Harper's recklessness. Her assistant, Mara, stood in the doorway, face pale. "The mayor's team just leaked a statement," she said. "They're calling for your resignation by morning." Alicia's thumb brushed the mousepad. If she exposed the truth, Harper's career would implode. But if she didn't, the lies would bury her reforms, and every kid like Jamal counting on them. Her phone buzzed. An unknown number, a single photo of Jamal, standing in Caldwell Tower's lobby, his face tense. "Stay quiet," the text read, or, "The kid pays." Jamal backed toward the elevator, but the button didn't light up. Victoria's security guard, Marcus, Harper's brother, blocked the stairwell, arms crossed. "Sit down, Jamal," Victoria said, nodding to a leather chair. "Let's discuss priorities." Her smile was a knife. "Sign the contract, focus on your future, and let the adults handle the rest. Or," she tilted her head, "well, your mother works at Mercy General, doesn't she? Night shifts can be so dangerous." Jamal's blood turned to ice. "You wouldn't." Victoria's eyes narrowed. "You've only seen the version of me I wanted you to see." Alicia stood abruptly, her chair screeching against the floor. "Get me Harper," she told Mara. "Now." The photo of Jamal. burned in her mind. How deep did Caldwell's reach go? Harper answered on the first ring, his voice ragged. I know about the subpoena, he said. I'll turn myself in. It's my fault. No, Alicia cut in. Meet me at Caldwell Tower, and bring everything you have on your brother. Jamal's hand trembled as he reached for the pen beside the contract. Victoria watched, triumphant, as he flipped to the signature page. But instead of signing, he slammed the pen down, grabbed the folder of inspection reports, and bolted past. Marcus toward the floor-to-ceiling windows. You want a scandal? Jamal yelled, yanking open the balcony door. The wind roared in, whipping his hoodie as he held the papers over the 40-story drop. I'll give you one. Below, traffic crawled like toys. Victoria's composure cracked. Marcus, stop him! Harper's patrol car skidded to a halt outside Caldwell Tower, just as the first camera crews arrived. Tipped off by an anonymous call about a disturbance involving the commissioner's case. He shoved through the crowd, radio blaring with reports of a juvenile threat on the 42nd floor. His brother's face flashed in his mind. Marcus always chasing approval from people like Caldwell. Harper's fists clenched. He'd spent years trying to outrun his brother's mistakes. Now, they were the same. Alicia's sedan screeched in behind the news vents. She spotted Harper at the tower's entrance, his badge raised at security. Harper! She shouted. He turned, and for a heartbeat, they were just two people drowning in the same storm. Then the tower's fire alarm blared. A piercing wail as sprinklers erupted on the upper floors. On the balcony, Jamal gripped the reports, rain soaking through his clothes. Marcus lunged, but Jamal swung the folder back further. You think she'll protect you? Jamal shouted over the wind. She'll bury you like she did those tenants. Marcus froze, conflict flashing in his eyes. Below them, sirens wailed. Alicia and Harper sprinted through the chaos of the lobby, dodging panicked employees. Stairwell's blocked, Harper yelled, pointing to a service elevator. They squeezed inside, the doors closing painfully slow. Alicia's phone buzzed. Another text. A live news link. Breaking standoff at Caldwell Tower. Teen threatens jump. The screen showed Jamal, small and drenched, clinging to the edge. No, Alicia whispered. No. Victoria stood frozen in the office, her perfect hair plastered to her face by the sprinklers. Call off your security, Jamal demanded, waving the papers. Admit what you did. But Victoria's panic hardened into resolve. She nodded at Marcus. Get him down. The elevator shuddered to a stop. Harper pried the doors open, revealing a hallway choked with smoke. Fire's on 30, someone screamed. Alicia sprinted toward the stairwell, Harper close behind. Somewhere above, Jamal's voice echoed down the shaft, raw, furious, alive. Marcus took a step toward Jamal. Don't make this worse, he growled. Jamal's shoes slipped on the wet ledge. The folder trembled in his grip. You want to be her puppet forever? Jamal shouted. A gust of wind ripped the papers from his hands, scattering them over the city like confetti. Marcus lunged. The sigh. Stairwell door burst open. Alicia and Harper spilled onto the 42nd floor, just as Jamal's sneakers slipped into open air. Marcus's hand clamped around Jamal's wrist, just as his sneaker lost contact with the ledge. The teen dangled, suspended over the dizzying drop, Marcus's face straining with effort as he hauled him back. But instead of pulling Jamal to safety, Marcus froze, his grip tightening like a vice. You want to be a hero? He growled, sweat mixing with rain on his forehead. Then listen. Jamal's breath hitched as Marcus shoved a flash drive into his free hand. Everything's on here. Caldwell's deals, the bribes, all of it. Get it to Harper. Before Jamal could process the words, Marcus yanked him onto the balcony and spun him toward the stairwell, shouting for the crowd below. He's got a bomb! Chaos erupted. Security guards surged forward as Jamal stumbled into the smoky hallway, the flash drive burning in his fist. Marcus's lie echoed through the building, bomb triggering stampedes, drowning out Jamal's shouts of, "It's not true!" Across the room, Victoria backed toward her desk, eyes wild, fumbling with a locked drawer. But Alicia was faster. She lunged, grabbing a framed photo off the wall, Victoria and the mayor grinning at a ribbon cutting, and slammed it onto the desk. The glass shattered. "You're done," Alicia hissed. Victoria laughed, breathless. "You think the mayor will let you expose me? I own him." Harper shoved through the crowd, radio screaming updates about a bomb threat. His training kicked in: evacuate, secure the perimeter. But his brother's face flashed in his mind. Marcus, who'd just risked everything to pass Jamal that drive. Harper spotted Jamal crouched behind a potted plant, clutching his arm, and grabbed his shoulder. "Where is it?" Jamal opened his palm, the flash drive glinting. Harper's blood went cold. The drive was identical to the one his brother had kept hidden in their childhood home, the one labeled insurance. Downstairs, news helicopters circled, broadcasting the chaos live. The word bomb trended instantly, but viral clips also captured. Marcus's whisper to Jamal, "Get it to Harper." Viewers zoomed in, lip-reading, speculating. Hashtags erupted: Ras Caldwell cover-up, Marcus the hero. Across town, Jamal's mom, Diane, watched the news from Mercy General's break room, her coffee cup shattering on the floor. Alicia cornered Victoria, blocking her escape. "Call off your security, now." Victoria's smile was venom. "Or, what? You'll arrest me?" She nodded toward the window. Outside, the mayor's motorcade skidded to a halt, press swarming. "He'll protect his investments," Victoria said. But her triumph faltered as Harper burst in, holding up the flash. "Drive. You mean these investments?" He pointed to the mayor on the screen, now fleeing reporters' questions about photos surfacing of him at Caldwell's construction sites. Blood money venues in the same neighborhoods he'd vowed to. "Clean up." Jamal edged toward the stairwell, his ribs throbbing, but Marcus appeared, blocking his path. "Not that way," he muttered, shoving him toward a service elevator. "They'll be waiting for you downstairs." Jamal hesitated. "Why? Are you helping me?" Marcus's jaw tightened. Harper's not the only one who wanted to be better. The elevator doors opened, revealing a huddle of Caldwell's security guards. Marcus stepped in front of Jamal, his voice a low snarl. "Touch him, and I bury you all." Alicia's phone buzzed, a notification that the boutique security footage had just leaked. Not the original, but a doctored clip edited to show her planting the bracelet. The mayor's work. Her stomach churned. The truth was on Harper's drive, but the world was seeing lies. Harper met her gaze, the flash drive in his hand. "We need to go public, now." But the drive required a password. Marcus's voice crackled over Harper's radio. "The code's our old locker combo, the one Mom made us use." Victoria lunged for the drive, but Alicia tackled her, sending them both crashing into a bookcase. Legal files rained down. Tenant evictions, silenced whistleblowers, a photo of Jamal's mom, Diane, circled in red. Alicia's blood ran cold. "You targeted her?" Victoria spat blood from a split lip. "You think I don't know you've been sniffing around Mercy General? That nurse friend of yours talks too much." Jamal's service elevator ground to a halt between floors. Marcus jammed the doors open, revealing a 10-foot drop into a maintenance closet. "Jump," he ordered. "They're coming." Jamal hesitated, staring at the dark gap. "Why should I trust you?" Marcus's face softened, just for a second. "Because I couldn't save my kid brother, but I can save you." Harper's hands shook as he typed the locker combo into the drive. Files exploded across the screen. Bank transfers, voice recordings, a video of the mayor laughing about fixing Alicia's arrest. But the last file froze him. A security feed from the night his brother was arrested. Marcus handcuffed, begging cops to check the trunk. Harper had never seen it, had never asked. Alicia pinned Victoria, her knee digging into the woman's spine. "Call off your dogs." Victoria wheezed. "Or what? You'll kill me?" "No," Alicia said, "but he might." She nodded to the door, where Harper stood hollow-eyed, holding up his phone. The mayor's voice played loud enough for the nearby news mics to catch. "Take Carter out, permanently." Jamal landed hard in the maintenance closet, pain shooting up his ankle. Marcus dropped down after him, shoving a vent cover open. "Through here, now." Jamal crawled into the duct, the metal clanging. Behind them, gunshots rang out. Caldwell's guards or the mayor's? Marcus didn't look back. Harper's phone rang. Unknown number. He answered, and Jamal's voice echoed, tinny and frantic. "They're chasing us. I don't know where—" The line went dead. Harper stared at Alicia, the flash drive's contents glowing between them. Somewhere in the walls, Jamal was running out of time. So were they all. The gunshot echoed through the maintenance duct as Marcus shoved Jamal forward, his breath ragged. "Keep moving," he barked, blood soaking through his sleeve. Jamal crawled. Blindly, the flash drive clutched so tight it left marks. Behind them, shouts grew louder. "Find the kid!" Until Marcus suddenly stopped, blocking the path. "Take this," he muttered, thrusting a crumpled photo into Jamal's hand. It showed Marcus, years younger, arm around a woman Jamal recognized instantly, his mother. "Tell Diane I kept my promise," Marcus whispered. Then he turned, lunging back toward the guards with a roar, gun raised. Alicia's hands shook as she plugged the flash drive into the live news feed. The screen split. On one side, the mayor's smirking denial. On the other, video of him pocketing stacks of cash from Victoria in a dim parking garage. The studio erupted. That's fabricated," the mayor stammered, but Alicia didn't flinch. "Check the timestamps," she said, her voice steady. "Check your bank accounts." Harper stood beside her, eyes glued to another clip surfacing. Security footage from the night his brother was arrested. Marcus, hands raised, pleading with cops to search his trunk. A body slumped inside. A Caldwell whistleblower. "He was trying to show us," Harper breathed. "They framed him." Victoria's arrest played out on live TV. Her couture smudged with duct grease as cops dragged her past reporters. But as the cameras zoomed in, she locked eyes with Alicia and mouthed, "You missed one." The crowd outside Caldwell Tower erupted. Cheers as Jamal emerged, limping, the photo of Marcus and his mom pressed to his chest. Diane pushed through the barricades, tears streaking her face as she hugged him. You're okay," she kept repeating, until Jamal pulled back, holding up the photo. "Who is he, Mom?" Diane's face crumpled. "He's the reason we're safe, the reason I left him, to protect you." Before Jamal could ask, a reporter thrust a mic in his face. "What's next for the hero who took down Caldwell?" Jamal glanced at the tower, its glass facade reflecting the sunset. "We rebuild," he said, "together." Harper found Marcus's body in the maintenance closet, a pool of blood staining his badge. Clutched in his hand was a note. "Tell Harper I finally got it right." Harper sank to his knees, the weight of every unsaid word crushing him, until his radio crackled. "Officer Harper, we found something." At dawn, Alicia stood at Marcus's graveside, Harper beside her. The commissioner's badge felt heavier today. "He gave us everything," she said. "Names, dates, even the mayor's offshore accounts." Harper nodded, silent until his phone buzzed. A video from the evidence drive. Marcus, bruised and bleeding in a dark room, whispering, "If you're watching this, I'm dead." But the real boss isn't Caldwell, it's... The video cut to static. Harper's head snapped up. Across the cemetery, a figure in a black suit laid roses on Victoria's grave, then turned, smiling faintly before vanishing into the fog. In the end, the headlines celebrated justice. The mayor resigned. Caldwell Futures dissolved. Jamal's face beamed from Time's Next Gen Leaders issue, but as Alicia scrolled through the news that night, a notification popped up, an encrypted email. Just 2 words. "Hello, Commissioner." Attached was a photo of her entering the cemetery that morning, and a fresh diamond bracelet, identical to the one from the boutique, glinting on her desk. Alicia stared at the diamond bracelet on her desk, its sparkle sharp under the fluorescent office lights. The same one from the boutique, the same accusation. But this time, there was no officer's mistake to blame. Her assistant, Mara, hovered in the doorway, clutching a file. "It's from the mayor's estate," she said quietly. "Sent before his suicide." Alicia's throat tightened. The news had called it guilt. She knew better. Across the city, Jamal stood in the rubble of the old church, now cleared for rebuilding. Reporters snapped photos as he shoveled the first scoop of dirt for the foundation. Caldwell Futures scrubbed from the blueprints, replaced by a new name, the Marcus Thompson Center. His mom had finally told him the truth. Marcus was the brother she'd left to protect Jamal from his dangerous past. A past he'd tried to outrun. Jamal pressed a hand to the locket around his neck, a gift from Diane. Inside, a faded photo of Marcus, young and smiling. "You're part of this too," he whispered to the wind. Harper tossed his badge onto the precinct captain's desk. "I'm done." The captain didn't argue. The footage of Marcus's final moments had gone viral, his heroism overshadowing Harper's mistakes. But as Harper walked out, a rookie cop stopped him. "Sir, your brother, he left something for you." A key taped to a note. "Storage locker 17B. The locker was full of Marcus's things, a dusty bike helmet, a stack of old birthday cards Harper never sent, and a shoebox labeled, "For Jamal." Inside, a college fund booklet with $20,000 cash and a letter. "If you're reading this, I messed up again, but this money's clean, promise." Harper sank to the concrete floor, laughing through tears. Marcus had been saving for a kid he'd never even met. Alicia tracked the bracelet to a pawn shop downtown. The owner squinted at her badge. "Mayor's guy pawned it weeks ago," he said. "Real slimy type, had a tattoo." He tapped his neck. A serpent. Alicia's stomach dropped. She'd seen that tattoo before, on the mayor's chief of staff, during his perp walk, but the man had vanished after the scandal. She stepped back into the sunlight, her phone buzzing. An unknown number. "Check your mail." The package on her doorstep was small, wrapped in newspaper. Inside, a USB drive and a note. "You're welcome." The drive held footage of the chief of staff planting the bracelet in her office, and a list of every cop he'd bribed. Alicia exhaled. Marcus's last gift. At the community center groundbreaking, Jamal spotted Harper lingering at the back of the crowd. He approached, hands in his pockets. "You gonna help rebuild or just stand there?" Harper blinked. "I'm not good at this." Jamal shrugged. Neither was Marcus, but he tried. Harper's throat worked. That night, he showed up with a toolbox and a dozen ex-cops from Marcus's old unit. "We're here to volunteer," he said. Jamal grinned. Better late than never. Alicia leaked the USB files to the press, watching the chief of staff's arrest from her office. The bracelet went into evidence, along with the mayor's confession letter. Mara brought her coffee, eyeing the empty desk. "You're really not running for re-election?" Alicia smiled. "Reform's bigger than a badge." She slid a brochure across the table. The Marcus Thompson Center, Leadership Program for At-Risk Youth. Mara's eyes lit up. "When do we start?" Harper found Jamal on the center's half-built roof at sunset. The city sprawled below. "Your mom said you're leaving for Howard next week." Jamal nodded. "Gonna study civil rights law. Someone's gotta keep you cops in check." Harper snorted, but his chest warmed. He pulled a folded check from his pocket, Marcus's college fund. "He wanted you to have this." Jamal stared at the amount. "I can't." "You can," Harper said. "He wasn't there for you. Let him be now." The night before Jamal left, Diane hung Marcus's photo beside her son's graduation picture. "He'd be proud," she whispered. Jamal hugged her. "So are you." Alicia stood at the center's grand opening, flanked by Harper and Jamal, the ribbon stretched between them. Cameras flashed as she cut it, the crowd cheering. But her eyes caught a figure in the back, a woman in a sleek black suit, her face obscured by sunglasses. She lifted a hand in salute before disappearing into the crowd. Alicia's pulse spiked. Victoria's lawyer? But when she pushed through the crowd, the woman was gone. Later, Harper found her on the rooftop. "You okay?" Alicia sighed. "We got the bad guys. Why doesn't it feel over?" Harper handed her a flyer for the center's first workshop. Building trust between communities and police. "Maybe it's not supposed to," he said. "Maybe we just keep going." Jamal FaceTimed his mom from his dorm room, Howard's. campus buzzing behind him. "First day's tomorrow," he said. Diane smiled. "Make him proud." He glanced at Marcus's locket on his desk. Both of them. Alicia sat in her new office at the center, sunlight streaming through windows. Etched with donor names, Marcus's bold at the top. Mara burst in, waving a letter. "Funding approved. The state wants to replicate us in 5 cities." Alicia grinned, but her gaze drifted to the security monitor. A black sedan idled outside. She picked up the phone. "Harper, we might need a patrol here tonight." In the end, there were no grand speeches or cured systems. Just a bike shop. Jamal opened next to the center, where Harper taught teens to repair donated bikes. Just Diane leading support groups for mothers who'd lost sons to the streets. Just Alicia mentoring a new commissioner, her commissioner's badge in a frame above her desk. And on quiet nights, when the center was empty, she'd find fresh coffee on her desk. Black, no sugar, the way Marcus liked it, with a note. Still. Watching. The city didn't fix itself overnight, but in the cracks between the old wounds something grew, loud, imperfect, alive. And for the first time in a long time, that was enough.